Good evening, everybody. I'm Lou Dobbs. Stocks today falling sharply again. Investors digesting the meaning of the UK's historic vote to leave the European Union. The Dow Jones Industrials today at the close down more than 260 points, bringing its two-day sell-off to nearly 900 points, about $3 trillion lost in the global equity markets. Market strategists blaming today's rout on uncertainty about the impact of the Brexit vote.
All the comparisons to Lehman, we don't see this being the same financial crisis. This is a crisis of leadership, a crisis of confidence. This is not a over-levered, bad, toxic asset crisis.
Clearly, there are going to be, the multinational companies that do a lot of business in the UK and or the EU are going to potentially be under the most pressure.
Look for the central banks to be doing most of the action here, certainly the short term after Brexit. And that's where I think you're going to see, if there's any stimulus, that's where it's going to come from, the ECB, Bank of Japan, and the Fed.
And the Fed. But it's not just the economy feeling the shock waves in the markets. The vote has also enabled Donald Trump to say he was one of the few who accurately read the anti-establishment mood that was sweeping the UK. Hillary Clinton, meanwhile, and President Obama, well, Donald Trump says they got it completely wrong.
I got it right, and Hillary got it wrong, and Obama got it wrong, and Obama was very nasty when he said they get to the back of the line. It was a horrible thing to say. And, some people say they may have lost it for that reason or because of the so-called Obama support. But they sort of get everything wrong, John. They get it wrong. They get it wrong all the time. And that's part of the problem our country has.
Well, we take up the fallout from the vote with former Pentagon official KT McFarland. She joins us here in moments. A lot to cover tonight, including the State Department now admitting Russia is harassing U.S. diplomats in Moscow. The harassment carried out by Russian President Putin's security agencies, reportedly including breaking and entering diplomats' homes, slashing their tires, in one case killing a diplomat's dog. So what is the Obama State Department? What is the Obama White House doing in response? Well, they've complained to Mr. Putin, and that is all we know to this point. Also tonight, Hillary Clinton debuting her newest attack dog on the campaign trail, Senator Elizabeth Warren, who did as she was told and slammed Donald Trump.
Donald Trump says he'll make America great again. It's right there. No, it's stamped on the front of his goofy hat. You want to see Goofy? Look at him in that hat.
It is so tempting to make some comment, but I will not. Trump, of course, has mocked the senator herself as Goofy. Trump quickly fired back in a statement saying, quote, Senator Elizabeth Warren has become a turncoat for the causes she supposedly supports. While Warren claims that Wall Street businesses have too much influence in D.C., by paying barely disguised bribes through campaign contributions, the Clinton campaign has accepted over $41 million this cycle from Wall Street interest. Trump's chief policy advisor, Sam Clovis, will be our guest here tonight as well. Our top story, fallout from Britain's decision to leave the European Union. Stocks all around the world selling off for a second straight session. The Dow plunged 261 points, the S&P down 37, closing below its 200-day moving average, but still holding just barely above 2,000. The Nasdaq fell 114 points. Volume on the big board, heavy trading, 5.4 billion shares. The Wilshire 5000 measuring today's losses at $500 billion. Markets in Europe also sold off. The FTSE dropped 2.5%. Markets in France and Germany down 3%. Ratings agency S&P and Fitch today both downgraded the UK's credit rating. Moody's also warning it would downgrade the country's rating after slashing its outlook last Friday. Well, joining me now to talk about the British exit from the European Union, its impact on foreign policy, this country, and indeed around the world, former Pentagon official, Fox News national security analyst KT McFarland. KT, this has been quite a two-day run in the markets, about $3 trillion lost globally in equities. And meanwhile, congratulations pouring in to the British. well, not really pouring in, two places, Moscow and Iran, sending their best. What do you make of it?
Okay, look, Europe is finished. Europe, as we have known it, is finished. And it's like the Titanic. It hit the iceberg. Everybody on the deck was saying, the captains were saying, don't worry, we've got this covered. It's going to be just fine. The Brits understand that the ship is going down, and they've gotten off on the lifeboat. Now, it's been not easy getting on that lifeboat, and that lifeboat is going to tip and rock and pitch. I think eventually they'll be fine, but it's going to take a step back. It's going to be bad, but it's going to be so much better because they'll be freed from that sclerotic stranglehold the European Union had on them.
And the European Union itself, there's now talk of superstate. There's talk, at least in the European liberal media, if I may put it that way, about a petition that would undo the leave vote. And the nonsense just goes, after itself. Meanwhile, as you say, a half a dozen other nations are talking about moving ahead with a referendum that would be referenda of their own. What do you think?
Germany, with the European Union, Germany finally figured out how to win World War I. And it won it economically. They've tried World War I and World War II. They tried war. This has been economic war, and this has been economic domination. And Germany's been calling the shots. The European Union is not. It really promised peace and prosperity for all the members. It's failed to deliver either one. So the Brits have gotten out. Now, I would hope that the next American president, instead of the threats that Obama said of you're going to get punished in back of the queue, the next American president should say, come on up to the front. Let's have a U.S.-UK alliance.
Well, if that next president is Donald Trump, he's already done that, and he did it spontaneously in the moment as the vote occurred. From Hillary Clinton, we've heard really very vague, opaque remarks. You could say she's attacking Trump, but they are so lacking in specificity, and so it's just like vapor hanging out there. She's really not sharpened her attacks or done so on a policy basis.
No, it's like picking up Jell-O. I mean, they're just sort of ad hominem attacks. And yet Trump is offering to rethink American foreign policy. Hillary Clinton is more of the same. Trump is saying, let's rethink our alliance system with NATO. Let's rethink the relationship with Russia. Let's definitely rethink and retrade those deals with China and Iran.
I think that the diplomats in Brussels and Geneva might say they're going to reconsider, rethink, perhaps reset. As I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, Trump basically just said NATO was not aligned properly for the threat, which is principally the radical Islamist terrorists of the Middle East and their export of terror to Europe and, of course, to America and other places around the world. We're looking at more attacks per day, terrorist attacks per day now, than at any time since for us, the beginning of this in 2001. Mm-hmm. This is going the wrong way.
It is.
Still, with 206 days remaining of this president in office, he will not acknowledge radical Islamists. He will not acknowledge the threat that is posed not just to ourselves,
but to the whole global,
to the globe.
Western civilization. I mean, this is a global fight against Western civilization. The president thinks, well, we'll just pretend that's not the problem. Radical Islam has decided that is the fight, and they are willing to bring that battlefield to Europe, to the United States, North Africa, the world.
And the threat posed by Russia, which has just in the midst of all of this annexed Crimea and continues to threaten Eastern Europe. But now these attacks on our diplomats. There is no response. There is no even a statement, no writing of blather on a card to hand off to the Russian diplomats in Washington. This president doesn't seem to be. He's so utterly enervated. He can't rise to even send a card.
Look, we're being humiliated and taken advantage of, and the president is just, well, I'm above all of that. The great arc of history will take care of things.
And with that, K2 McFarland, thanks for being here. Good to see you. We're coming right back. We have, as I said, a great deal to cover tonight. Stay with us. Donald Trump is back from Brexit, and now it's campaign on.
I think that's why I'm doing so well in the polls before I even really start. I think that, you look at some of the states, I'm up and I'm even in some of the major states.
Trump and Hillary virtually tied in 4 critical battleground states. Ed Rollins, Michael Goodwin join me next.